Hey everyone. So I want you guys to understand something. As Palestinians, we are constantly in pain. We are constantly hurting. We have a constant state of sadness compartmentalized in our minds, bodies, and souls for decades as we do our best to continue on with our lives day after day. So when you see a Palestinian that is happy and laughing, know that we are actually happy because we are naturally a fun-loving and vibrant people. But I want you guys to also be aware of that compartmentalized sadness we are carrying that is now on full display. So I'd like to explain to you one of the major sources of our sadness and anger, aside from the physical atrocities we are witnessing day in and day out. It's a deep-rooted pain every single Palestinian feels. So to preface this, I'd like to briefly tell you about my family. As many of you know by now, I'm Palestinian American. My grandparents and great-grandparents on both sides of my family are indigenous to Palestine and were born and raised there. They were all subjected to the Nakba of 1948 that forced them out of their homeland, displacing them as refugees, where they eventually relocated to Jordan. Now fast forward to this September of last year, just a couple weeks prior to the madness we are living. I was proudly able to take my family on a trip to Palestine where we had the most incredible trip of our lifetime, which was truly an out-of-body experience. My parents and siblings also were fortunate enough to go to Palestine once 12 years ago. I say this because we were privileged enough to carry American passports and travel as Americans. But even through that route, we faced numerous travel difficulties, checkpoints, family separations, and long waits because we were Palestinian Americans. So my mom and dad have massive families. Growing up, I had 15 aunts and uncles collectively. Of the 15 aunts and uncles, only 5 of them have ever been to Palestine, 2 of whom were only because they were born there and had to leave as infants in 1948 to never return again. So technically only 3 of the 15 were ever able to visit Palestine. And boy, was it the most grueling and time-consuming visa process in order to do so. I'm talking years of several failed attempts to finally obtain the visas to visit. My point is, the majority of my aunts and uncles, whom are the most upstanding, loving, and caring family men and women I have ever known, have never set foot on, taken a breath of, or even enjoyed Palestine in their entire lifetimes. Not because they were never given a chance to, but because they are prohibited from going back due to restrictions by the Israeli government. And what hurts the most is that I've lost an uncle and aunt, Allah yarhamhum, whom I loved with every fiber of my being, yet they never got a chance to ever return to their homeland and experience its beauty. And my grandparents, who left in 1948, whom all of them I have lost, Allah yarhamhum, never got a chance to return. And this tears me up inside constantly. I bring this up because this is why I describe my trip to Palestine as the most euphoric yet emotionally painful trip I've ever experienced. Because everywhere I walked, I thought to myself, why the hell do I deserve this over my aunts and uncles? And to this day, I tell myself I didn't deserve it. They deserve to be there with me. As they, along with my parents and grandparents, were the ones that instilled all this insurmountable pride and love for my people and homeland. They made me who I am today. So this brings me to why we Palestinians feel gut-wrenching pain all the time. Because many Palestinians all over the world who are indigenous to the land by right of our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents are not allowed to ever return to Palestine again. And those who live in Palestine are never allowed to travel freely in or out of Palestine, whether it be because they literally can't as a result of the occupation, blockade, and military rule, or in fear of leaving and never being able to return again. And Palestinians in Palestine are not even able to travel from town to town without numerous checkpoints and extreme surveillance. Palestinians without Israeli passports are not even allowed to touch any Israeli territory, period. And what adds to this pain is the fact that Joe Schmo from Brooklyn, New York, who is Jewish and has never stepped foot onto Palestine or Israel, whose parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents have also never stepped foot into Palestine or Israel, can literally take a quick flight in and get an immediate citizenship in Israel and travel wherever they please in Israel and Palestine, with zero restrictions and full freedom, which Palestinians who live in Palestine can't even say. And for this next part, I'm going to attempt to get through it as quick as I can, because it absolutely infuriates and disgusts me to my absolute core. And this is that extra twist of the dagger that contributes to that constant pain we feel. Listen to this.
A CBS News investigation has uncovered a loophole that allows accused and convicted American pedophiles to escape justice by moving to Israel. So Ian Lee has been following this for more than a year, and he traveled to Israel for this investigation. He worked with a group that tracks people accused of sex crimes.
We are on a stakeout looking for this man, Jimmy Julius Caro, 48 years old and wanted on charges of sexually assaulting a 9-year-old girl in Oregon back in 2000 and a 5-year-old girl in Israel in 2001. He's considered dangerous. But these photos are a few years old, so we don't know if he'll look the same. He remains elusive. Previous attempts to capture him have failed.
Obviously, the fear that he would somehow figure out that anyone's looking for him and bolt. He just called his number.
Shauna Aronson got a tip that Caro's expected at this clinic near Tel Aviv.
Who's going to call the
She's
police,
with JCW, Jewish Community Watch, an organization that hunts down accused pedophiles who flee to Israel from the U.S., exploiting a process called law of return, whereby any Jewish person can move to Israel and automatically gain citizenship. The ease with which pedophiles seem able to use this law as an escape route haunts victims like Mendy Hawk, who says he was abused from age 8 by a teacher at an Orthodox Jewish school in Los Angeles.
So yes, Jewish American pedophiles are able to travel to Israel, gain quick citizenship, and live freely amongst Palestinians and Israelis, and in many cases become the settlers that steal Palestinian homes and displace them as refugees. Israeli newspapers and rabbis confirm that these pedophiles run rampant in Israel to this day and continue to commit absolutely abhorrent and disgusting crimes. Here's a map of the registered sex offenders in Israel. And before you jump on here claiming this map is fake, here's a prominent Israeli newspaper for you. So are you starting to get where all of our pain and anger comes from? My aunts and uncles can't step foot into their rightful homeland, and our families living in Palestine can't roam freely and are subject to military rule, while literal rapists and pedophiles are able to live freely all over the land. And speaking of, I need to take this chance to touch on one thing regarding rape allegations thrown around left and right as the only last-ditch effort propaganda they spew in hopes that something will stick in their pathetically failing narrative. And look all of this up yourself. There is never any evidence of their claims aside from their just take our word for it mentality. They have denied multiple attempts by the UN to investigate the claims and refused to let any outside entity investigate such bogus claims. A story literally just came out saying Israeli police can't locate any victims of sexual assault from October 7th. Yet all you hear is rape this and rape that from all remaining staunch pro-Israeli and pro-genocide folk. Yet what do we see on video that we share on a regular basis? Israeli forces literally rummaging through Palestinian women's underwear drawers and grabbing their undergarments and lingerie by the fistful, while disgustingly fantasizing and calling them Arab whores. And who has verified, substantiated, and reported on rape convictions all over the place? Again confirmed by Israeli news sources? The motherfucking Israeli occupation forces. So next time you question their morality, give the facts a chance. And as you all have learned by now, when it comes to anything coming from the Israeli government and the occupation forces, any of their allegations are essentially their confessions. So I'll end on a positive note. With the way things are crumbling on their end, and with the world waking up and opening their eyes more than ever, I truly can envision me, my son, and my wife all standing together with our parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins at one happy family reunion in our motherland of Palestine, in honor of those who we've lost, including our ancestors who fled only to save our family lineage. And we will hopefully all be standing together with our fellow Palestinian brothers and sisters in Palestine as a free and liberated people. Inshallah.